So it would be grateful to have your prospect on the CHIPS Act. So how can the CHIPS Act improve the U.S. semiconductor supply chain and U.S.-Korea semiconductor partnerships?
So in terms of the U.S.-Korea semiconductor partnership or partnership generally, I'm very positive about what the CHIPS Act may be able to do. We already have a very complementary relationship in our sector. We're very strong in logic and design and tools. Korea's very strong when it comes to memory. Korea controls 2/3 of the world chip memory market. Also, Korea has a strong emerging foundries industry. So we're very complementary already, and I think that I'm very forward-leaning in believing that the CHIPS Act will help improve our collaboration. First of all, a couple of higher-level points, and one of them is it should come as no surprise to anybody that Congress included guardrails in this legislation. This is a very significant amount of taxpayer money, and Congress wants to make sure it's spent in an appropriate way. So it should be no surprise that we have the guardrails. The second point here is that the guardrails reflect the political reality on Capitol Hill, that there's a lot of anxiety about China when it comes to technology policy. And that's just the reality, and that's another reason the guardrails are there. In terms of specific limitations imposed by the guardrails, we believe that the U.S. government wants to ensure that innovative companies from Korea and other parts of the world can expand their manufacturing here. So, my anticipation, our hope is that as implementing guidelines are being established by the Commerce Department and other parts of the U.S. government, they're done in a way to provide enough flexibility so that manufacturers like Samsung and SK Hynix will be able to expand their manufacturing here in the U.S. So we feel fairly optimistic on that point. I think there's already a fair amount of design activity in Korea by U.S. firms. There's also lots of sales offices and engineering offices by U.S. firms in Korea. I'll just say that we have paid a lot of attention to the announcement last year of the K-Belt strategy that will provide tax incentives and workforce programs, and then in July, the announcement of the roadmap for a national semiconductor strategy that also includes workforce provisions, infrastructure support, and R&D investments. And I just raise this because we hope very much that as provided by the CHIPS legislation, we hope that kind of all innovative players will be able to tap into the benefits of the K-Belt strategy and the roadmap. I think it's important for all of us not to put up barriers to innovation at our borders. Semiconductor industry is, by its nature, a very global industry. Our supply chains stretch around the world. One of our big strengths is that we have these global supply chains, and if the global supply chains and our access to foreign markets are somehow, whether it's for sales or for investments or R&D, or if they're somehow limited, that diminishes our industry. So we do hope that there will be some level of reciprocity when the K-Belt strategy incentives and the roadmap incentives are implemented. That's very interesting. There's definitely areas for collaboration among these four major semiconductor players. One of them, obviously, and we touched on this earlier, is supply chain resilience. There's already a lot of bilateral work going on, but I think there could be some more work among this group of four. Free trade, we all take this for granted. I think there could be a lot more collaboration to strengthen the WTO, to do things like expand the Information Technology Agreement again. It was last expanded in 2015, and we'd like to see that happen. We want to make sure that our various incentive programs are done in a kind of a smart way where there's not overlap as much as possible and that they're as market-based as possible. IP is the backbone of our industry. IP enforcement and protection, there could be more collaboration in that area, and of course, workforce development. It's a big issue here in the U.S. We don't have enough domestic talent, and our immigration policies make it difficult for foreign talent to stay once it's been educated here in the U.S. I think there could be more collaboration in that area as well.
Thank you. So there is one other question regarding semiconductor supply prospect in 2023. And some analysts said that the semiconductor market will experience an oversupply next year. So can you share the semiconductor industry point of view, especially from the automatic chips manufacturer standpoint?
As you know, our industry is notoriously cyclical. Ups and downs, and some parts of the industry is more cyclical than others. And we're seeing, like fairly recently, a drop in demand for PCs or consumer electronics. But at the same time, we're seeing strong demand for automotive chips, for AI chips, for data center chips. So I think we're going to see some cyclical activity in some areas that's negative, in some areas it's positive in the short term. But in the long term, we're very bullish on the demand signals for our industry. This year, we're at something like $560 billion. There are analysts projecting that by 2030, the industry sales are going to be $1 trillion. I think just looking around at how much more dependent we are on devices and products that are powered by chips, that just tells us, I think, as we look over the horizon, that the prospects are very bright. We actually did some work with the Boston Consulting Group that did a report. I think it came out 18 months or a couple years ago. And it projected that over the next 10 years, we'll have something like a 56% growth in demand for semiconductor capacity production. So we think the longer story is a very bright one for us. I think we're at a critical juncture as an industry. I think it's been a wake-up call for many Americans how dependent we are on semiconductors, and I think it's been similar for other people around the world. But I think now more than ever, we need stronger collaboration when it comes to this critical industry. We're a global industry. Korea is a critical player in the global industry, and we need to be working very closely together to make sure that our industries can thrive both in terms of both commercially and in terms of being the most innovative in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.